All right, what's going on, everybody? We got another mock draft here today. Today, we're going to be doing my final mock draft of the season. So, this is going to be what I expect to happen in the draft. So, what I'm aiming for here is 5 correct picks in the first round. And what I mean correct picks, I mean by team selection. I believe that it's insanely hard to predict who's going to trade up for who. But if I can get 5 teams right, say the Chiefs trade up to 7 and take Caleb Downs, but I predicted them to take him at 9, I'll count that as a correct prediction. So we're gonna start off here with my first correct pick, Fernando Mendoza. No, we all expect Fernando Mendoza to go number 1 because he's been QB1 this entire draft season, and nothing's gonna change that. The Raiders want quarterback. They feel like they're ready for quarterback. That's why they overspent on offensive line in the offseason. So yeah, Fernando Mendoza is the pick at 1. And at number 2, here's an interesting one. I think Arvell Reese could very well be the pick here, but also David Bailey could. So we got to watch out for that. I'm going to go Arvell Reese here today at 2. And that could be a very interesting spot for the Jets because I think it's 50-50 between Arvell Reese and David Bailey. Here with the Cardinals at 3, this is the first pick where I start to consider a trade down because Dallas is at the point where they're starting to understand Sonny Styles is probably going to the Giants. And I think that's just, they if they feel like Sonny Styles is their guy, they could very well trade up to 3 with their 2 first round picks, give Arizona a lot of, ammunition in this draft to start their rebuild because Jacoby Brissett is holding out for whatever reason. And yeah, Cardinals could very well entertain trading down here. I'm gonna let them stick and pick. They're gonna go with Francis Mauigoa here at 3. He's the best tackle in the class, and I think that it's a solid start to the rebuild here. We don't know what could happen later in the draft. The Cardinals may trade up and come back to get Ty Simpson. Who knows? It could be one of those situations. Here at 4, I think that the pick here should be Jeremiah Love. It's up to debate whether they'll go David Bailey or not. Ruben Bain. Carnell Tate is in play. I really think that you just go Jeremiah Love here. He's the best player on the board. You need good players for Cam Ward to work with here. So at number 5 here, the Giants, who made a trade to send Dexter Lawrence to the Cincinnati Bengals for the 10th overall pick. So they'll be picking again in another 5 spots. And I think that gives them a lot of flexibility here to go with Sonny Styles because, look, you need a lot of difference makers on that defense. If you can go and get one in Sonny Styles at 5 and then knowing you have another top 10 pick in a few slots, that's an amazing start to this rebuild. So that's why I'm going to go with not start to rebuild, retool per se, because they already have their franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. They've got a lot of pieces in set. John Harbaugh is an excellent head coach, and we're going to be seeing a lot about what the Giants do to rebuild this team, retool this team. I gotta stop using this word for them. Retool this team. They can get back to being an 8, 9, 10 win team if they really play their cards right in this draft. That brings us to the Browns here. The Browns could go a number of different ways here. And I think that the most sensible is to give weapons to your quarterback, whoever that may be. If they decide to go Deshaun Watson, that'll be a decision. Carnell Tate here is going to be my pick. Go and get Shadur Sanders, a difference maker, I guess, or Deshaun Watson. But yeah, Carnell Tate is clear and away my number 1 wide receiver in this draft. Some people have Jordan Tyson being their number 1. I don't really see it. I think that availability is the best stability. And Makai Lemon could be in that conversation too. Carnell Tate will be my pick here. He's my wide receiver one. He does everything well. Go get your quarterback, whoever it may be, a top weapon in this draft class. And then you have another pick down in the 20s that you can work with. Here at 7, I think this will be a defender for Washington. I don't think that they go wide receiver in the first round, especially not with the position they're in. There's Caleb Downs, Mansur Delane, David Bailey, and Ruben Bain on the board. You could even, cheat down the board here at Jamad McCoy if you feel that he's the best in the class. But I'm going to go David Bailey here. David Bailey is a very intriguing prospect. He's a twitchy pass rusher, has a lot of bend to him that some of the top pass rushers don't have. Some players drafted ahead of him in this case might not have that bend, but he's a very elite athlete. And I think that that defense down in Washington would benefit greatly from picking him up. And that brings us to the Saints here at 8. There's a few ways you could go here, too. You could go Ruben Bain, Caleb Downs, Mansur Delane. You could go with any of these top defensive players, but honestly, I think I like what I've decided for with them here with Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon is just one of those players to where you can expect him to be a high floor player, and he can elevate this offense, one that has a lot of injuries in the wide receiver position with Chris Olave going down multiple times. If you can give Rattler and Shuck, well, it's going to be Shuck now. If you can give Shuck a top receiver in this draft to pair with his already decent weapons, and then maybe get a running back down the board, even though it's not a deep class at running back in my opinion, I think that you can really go out here and make a really nice case for a good offense. They do have some holes on defense, yes, but when you have someone like Makai Lemon staring you in the face, I believe that you go out and get him. And that brings me to the Chiefs here at 9. This goes one of two ways here for me. Do you pick up an elite cornerback prospect in Mansur Delane to replace Trent McDuffie? Or do you go with a player a little bit down the board to replace him and go with another top prospect up here at 9? And honestly, I don't think Ruben Bain is the prototypical Steve Spagnuolo pass rusher. He doesn't have the size, he doesn't have the long arms, he doesn't have like that bulk to him. He's 270, which is getting close to that range, but you might need a little bit more to be on that Steve Spagnuolo, radar for defensive ends. I think that I am going to go that route to address corner later, and I'm going to take Caleb Downs here. I think that Caleb Downs is a special player, and if they can go and get a difference maker to help shore up that defense while also leaving the door open to replacing McDuffie later, that they'd be in a really good spot here. And that brings back up the Giants here at 10, which is crazy that they get 2 top 10 selections. We have, out of the first half of the draft, 25% of that is New York picks between the Jets and the Giants. And here I'm going to go with Jordan Tyson. He's been linked to the Giants, so that's what I think is going to happen. Jordan Tyson is a polarizing prospect. Everyone knows the talent. He has the talent. But can he stay healthy? And can he be on the field to be a difference maker for the Giants, Jackson Dart, and be a good Robin to Malik Neighbors' Batman? I think that he can. In this case, that's what they're banking on. Jordan Tyson is going to be my pick here at 10. And if you're the Dolphins, ooh, buddy, you're salivating at how this board fell for you. You got some really good prospects here to choose from. Ruben Bain, who could be a top 5 pick, has slid in this particular draft. Mansur Delane, who very well could be the best corner in the draft, and Spencer Fano, who, despite being listed as a tackle, can project as a very good guard, which is a big need for the Miami Dolphins. But here, with this team not exactly being one piece away, they're not exactly a swing away from being like a top player. I think that I'm gonna go Mansur Delane here. You just go get a good cornerback prospect who could be the best one in this class, and you go out and get him at 11 after the Chiefs pass on him, and you really want to go get good players for this new regime. Tua's out. You have Malik Willis throwing to absolutely nobody. There's a chance that they could, go out and be a wide receiver player here earlier in the draft, but I don't see it. I see them going and get best player available. I think that's Mansur Delane. And here, if you're the Cowboys, you don't have to think about this too much. Ruben Bain is the best pass rusher. You need a pass rusher. Plain out and simple, after you traded away Micah Parsons, Ruben Bain is your answer. And here at 13 for the Rams, there's many ways you could go with here. Outside of Puka Nacua, they don't have much at the wide receiver position. You obviously could go tackle, you could go corner, but what I'm obviously going to end up going for is going to be corner. Jermod McCoy, I think, is the best cornerback in this class. There's arguments here and there for Mansur Delane being the best, maybe even Avion Terrell. I don't see it. I see Jermod McCoy, even though he's coming off that big injury. The 2024 tape does not lie about him. He was elite. Best tape out of anybody in this class. And at his pro day, he showed, or was it a pro day? Private workout, one of the two. He showed that he is still got it athletically. Ran a 4.38, I believe, and jumped 40 inches. Yeah, he's here. And that could be a big play for him. As we come here to the Baltimore Ravens, there's a lot that they could go with here. You obviously start to think about wide receiver with this team, interior offensive line, but when you look at the receivers here, the best one available to me is Omar Cooper and then Casey Concepcion. I don't think that you can justify either of those this early. I think you go Spencer Fano here as a guard. Spencer Fano's the best tackle prospect, technically, outside of Howie Noah up here, but I think that Fano projects as a really good guard, and you can have him be that for you and shore up the inside of that offensive line that has many issues after the leaving of Tyler Linderbaum. So Fano here at 14 makes sense at the very least, so I'm gonna go there. And here for the Buccaneers, this is where you could start to rationalize a trade up with Detroit, because Detroit very well could be trading up to get their guy here. They've done it in the past, even at 13. Be very watchful when the 13th pick comes up. See if Detroit doesn't start to get antsy about a trade up here. 13 is around the sweet spots for the Lions to trade up. I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys would trade down with Ruben Bain on the board, but 11 and 13, those could be really intriguing spots. But here at 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a really good prospect on the board here in Kenyon Sadiq, and they need a tight end. He is he's an unreal athlete. He showed out at the combine. If you saw any of the biggest risers from the combine this year, Kenyon Sadiq would be at the top of that list. He was amazing at the combine. He showed up and showed out. It was very good to see for him, and it nets him to be a top 15 pick in my version of the draft. That's another one where I'm pretty sure that one's gonna play out if the Rams don't get antsy about it. Here at 16 for the Jets, This is an intriguing spot because after you've gone Arvel Reese at the top here, where do you go? You could go wide receiver or edge. I don't particularly like any of the edge prospects that we have left besides Akeem Mesidor. Akeem Mesidor is one of those to where it's like he doesn't fit the Jets timeline if you know what I mean. Keldrick Falk, I don't know if I like the pass rush upside for them. Um, there's no wide receivers. Obviously, the cornerbacks are a little bit reachy at this point. So what I'm gonna do for them, I'm just gonna go out and do it. Ty Simpson at 16. It's not tremendous value, but it could be a spot to trade down, from 16 with somebody maybe like the Steelers who want to jump Detroit. It's just an interesting spot here. So Ty Simpson is an upgrade to anyone they already have on that roster. Geno Smith doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry. Geno Smith is just not that good. Um, I think that's the look here for the Jets, and that'll round off their first round. Here for the Lions at 17, here's one that I think has gone under the radar. I think Vega Ioane could be their guy. If you shore up the entire left side of that offensive line with Sewell being your left tackle, Vega being your left guard, and then Mays right in the center, that could be amazing. And then you have Ratledge at right guard and Borum at tackle. Right guard, he's been Mays and Ratledge could be a very good duo coming off there. And then all you have to worry about is right tackle, but Borum is playable at right tackle. So that would be a very interesting thing to see with the board falling like this. Would they go Monroe Freeling or would they go Vega Ioane? I think Vega Ioane is more of a Dan Campbell type of guy, but it could go either way based on how they view the needs. Again, Brad Holmes has said they don't feel like they need to pick tackle or edge in the first round. They need to get the best player for them. Vega Ioane is that for me. And if you're the Vikings here, you sprint this pick in. Dylan Thieneman is an amazing prospect. It's not like the Vikings to go out and pick DB this high anymore because of the Lewis Steen and Andrew Booth selections. They were not good selections for the Vikings. Neither played very many snaps. But 1 second. So yeah, the Vikings have a big hole at safety after Harrison Smith retired. So they fill it with a very good prospect in Dylan Thieneman. And that brings up the Panthers at 19. I know a lot of Panthers fans have been banging home about this, and I agree. Omar Cooper Jr. should be the pick here at 19. He's the best of the rest in this draft class when it comes for the wide receivers outside of, the big three in Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, and Carnell Tate. I think that, besides if you count Kenyon Sadiq as just a large receiver, but Omar Cooper is a sneaky good player, and I think that he would be a good pick here for the Panthers, who just need playmakers on that offensive outside of Ted McMillan. The Xavier Legette experiment doesn't seem like it's working, and I think that you go out and get Omar Cooper Jr., see what he can bring to the table. As we bring up Dallas here at 20, they have a lot of needs despite going who could be the best edge rusher in this class at 12. And this is a spot for CJ Allen. They just need playmakers on that defense. Obviously, their defense wasn't good in 2025. And if you can go get these two players to shore up that defense, that'd be a lot of ease for Dallas fans as we get here and stop the fall of Monroe Freeling with the Steelers, who could go tackle interior offensive line. Monroe Freeling is the best left tackle prospect in this draft, and I think that that's gonna start a run here on tackles because you could very well see another one go right here in Blake Miller or Caden Proctor to the Los Angeles Chargers. They need to go and get an interior offensive line. And Caden Proctor, when you worry about that foot speed with him, you start to realize he could be a better guard than tackle in the NFL. And boy, what a large guard he would be at his size. But Caden Proctor can be a good player for them. He is 6'7", 360. He played at an incredible weight last year. I think he played at more than 380, if I remember correctly. But I don't think that will be anywhere close to his playing weight. I think he'll play more around 360, 350, 340. But that brings up the Eagles, who could go a number of directions here. I know that edge could be in play here, and that could very well be where they go. But I think that Blake Miller here is a good option for the Eagles because he is the eventual replacement to Lane Johnson. He could just sneak in and be a good player for them down the road. And that's how Howie likes to draft. He likes to go and get players that, hey, these are good athletes who may not contribute 100% now, but they could go down the board, be some of the best players 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And that could be what Blake Miller is for the Eagles. And that leaves the Browns in an interesting spot because they probably would have taken Blake Miller at 23. But I don't think that Max Iheanacho is a bad substitute. So I think that's where we'll go with them. They need help along the offensive line. There was a small chance that they could go interior offensive line. And again, when we get to the back half of this draft, it's starting to, for my accuracy's sake, it's starting to get bleak because obviously everything gets more and more blurry after the first 7, 8, 9 picks. So everything down here is, this particular draft isn't particularly top heavy. So the difference between the 20th player selected and the 40th player selected may not be as big as you may think going into the draft. You may see some extreme reaches. You may see some guys fall a lot more than we're used to in these mock drafts, which is what is happening to some of these edge rushers. But that'll stop here with Akeem Mesidor. Pass rusher is what the Bears defense needs most, and if you can get one that's as polished as Akeem Mesidor coming out the draft, he's about as polished as any other pass rusher in this draft, but that does come with the downside of him being 25 years old, I believe. He will be, yeah, he's 25, so he can be instant impact for somebody who is looking to push a Super Bowl window like the Bears are. But it could be one of those, to where he falls because he's not one of those 21 or 22-year-old edges that you can mold into the player you want to become. He is what he is at the age of 25. So that's what I'd go for the Bears here. For the Bills, I'd love to go receiver for them, and the best one remaining is Casey Concepcion. I'm a bit higher than him, than a lot of others, but seeing where this draft fell, it makes more sense for him to be a Bill in this situation, and that would be a welcome addition for the Bills, who need playmakers for Josh Allen after Keaton Coleman didn't work out particularly, and they don't really have any true wide receiver one, but hey, Casey Concepcion can step up and answer the phone on that. Which brings up the Niners, who will go with a similar direction after what's happened with the weirdness that was Brandon Ayuk. Um, yeah, Denzel Boston could be a good replacement. Hopefully, a lot less of a headache. But you could also see an edge go there, Keldrick Falk specifically, because of the retirement of Bryce Huff. Yeah, so Boston is the pick for me there. And for the Texans, I like this pick a lot, even though it is a bit of a reach. Emmanuel Pregnon is the best remaining guard in this draft at this spot, unless you're talking one of the other tackles moving into the guard position. But Pregnon can go out there and be a day one starter for you and be nasty in the run game. And he's not half bad in pass protection either. And you went and traded for David Montgomery. He's used to good offensive lines. Go and get him some help, please. And that brings us to the Chiefs here at 29. I told you I would do it. Avion Terrell, I think, is one of my favorite prospects in this draft, relative to his position. He might not go in the first round, but I really do think he's one of the three best corners in this draft. He just takes away slant routes. Look at the film. He's got a lot of juice to him. He's probably gonna fall to the back end of this first round, but I really don't think he deserves to. He's a good player. And here for the Dolphins, who are making their second pick of the round, they went Mansour Delane earlier, and I think that if Manuel Pregnon didn't go a couple spots earlier, they might have entertained that. But here I'll give them best player available, which will be either Emmanuel McNeil Warren or Keldrick Fault. I'll go Keldrick Fault since they already went DB in the top of the draft. I think that it's very fair for them to go and get an edge rusher. It's basically pick your poison of what you prefer. I think that they'll go and get an edge rusher. You can just rebuild one side of the ball at a time. You can go receiver in the second round. It's not worth it to reach for Chris Bell or Chris Brazel at this spot. I think that the best case scenario is, yeah, just go get a best player available. Which brings us to the Patriots, who could very well be the spot where I go with Caden McDonald. He might sneak into the first round. It's not for certain. He could fall. These interior D linemen are so hard to predict. It's insane. Which brings me to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go with Emmanuel McNeil Warren to round off our mock draft here. Um, he's just too good to be there at that spot, and I think that Seattle will know that, and that's my mock draft. I'm gonna I'm gonna call my shot and say that I reached my goal of getting five correct, and it just might be the first five picks of the draft. I think Mendoza is a lock. Arvell Reese is a good 50-50 to go with. Maui Noah is the same. And Jeremiah Love is as close to a lock as you can get. Same with Sonny Styles. So if there's anything, I think five picks is a good benchmark to go for. Because in my other mock drafts from last year, I don't think that I hit five correct picks. If I can get five this year, I think that that's a good benchmark, but let me know what you think. Obviously, draft season's coming into an end. We're going to be a little more active on the channel, hopefully trying to get, these interesting videos towards the meat of the off season, which is like the dry period. Um Hopefully I can get a lot of team previews out. I think that I'm going to start with the NFC North. If I can get those out and make it to where I'm, just giving good analysis on those four teams, maybe I do the whole conference before the start of the season. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. And as always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. This will be a busy week. I'll have looks at whether the best suitors for each NFC North team coming out in subsequent days leading up to the draft. So hopefully I can get this up on Wednesday, and Monday and Tuesday are previews for the Lions and maybe the Vikings for their draft strategy. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It will do so much for the algorithm. And see you all this week. Go Lions.